Hello everybody, and welcome to Gilly, the smallest celestial body in the Kerbin system, and also the moon of the planet Eve. Now, just for reference to show you how small it is, its escape velocity is 30 meters per second, while Kerbin's is 3,400 meters per second, and we're going to try and land here today and return. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building. We've been here many times and we'll be here many more. We're going to design our little rocket to get us over to Gilly and return. I always forget the name of Gilly. I don't know why. It's a very memorable name. I don't tend to forget the names of any other things in Kerbal Space Program except for parts. I don't know any of the part names really. I should probably talk about what we're doing here, shouldn't I? Well, we have to the right of us, we have our mobile processing thingamabob, which will help us get some more science. It's very useful. We end up adding a decoupler to the crew capsule. This is a bit of an oversight since we are going to have two Kerbals in the mobile processing data thingamabob. I'm just going to call it that from now on because I think it's funny and I can't think of a better name for it. And I can't remember what it's called, so it's called that from now on. You can see us here trying to figure out what just the best part would be to connect those two. So we end up going with that one. Now here we're trying to figure out an engine. We end up going with that one, which I can never remember the name of. Never remember the name of anything in this game, I swear. Only thing I remember the name of is the planets, really. And you can see us here, we're just gonna hire a new scientist for this mission because Bob has sadly been stranded on Minmus, so we're gonna have to do a rescue mission for him. I accidentally did that while I think I was making a thumbnail, and I accidentally stranded him there and kind of forgot about him, so very sorry to Bob, but it's okay, we'll rescue him at some point. You can see us here doing our science storage collection boxes, which will just help us store all of our experiments nicely. You see us here adding the rest of our experiments, that being a thermometer and a barometer, I think it's called, as well as the mystery goo, as well as a science junior. So, for the first launch, you might be wondering why we're using the rocket that we used to get to Minmus, and, well, the simple reason for that is that we're using this rocket for a little tiny bit of extra science that we need. Really not much at all, just a very, very minuscule, tiny, small amount. And you can see a little bit of those firefly effects there. Beautiful, but we just want a very small amount. Hell, I don't even remember if we get into orbit fully, but we do take that EVA report, and that's literally all the science we needed. We only needed, I think, 2 science for the node that we want, and that is, I think, a decoupler. It's a structural one. It's one of the structural ones. Yeah, we don't even make it into orbit. We just immediately start going in for the landing. And you'll be able to see a little bit of the firefly effects, which just look stunning. They'll look better in the future with, well, when we're going a bit faster. We're going very slow at the moment, but it will look better with the rocket that we take to Gilly. So our parachutes deploy, and we come in for a water landing. How we actually cut some of them because we felt it was going too slow, and we got all the science we needed for our decoupler, so we're going to use that. Also some other structural pieces that we found were useful just to make that look a bit better. Yeah, we refrain from using that because this bit has all of our fuel, and we need our fuel, obviously. We have plenty of Delta V from Gilly to get back. Start adding our landing gear. We need lots because Gilly is kind of difficult to land on, not because it's super dense or anything like that, it's just because it's very, very uneven and very, very small and light, and so you kind of bounce around on all those little rocks. So it's more docking with Gilly than anything. Adding our decoupler for our second stage, which will be the transfer stage from Kerbin all the way over to Eve, and then Gilly, which is very, very, very nice. Start playing around with our delta V things. I think here I was looking at the delta V requirements. I think it's roughly 6,000 meters per second. We end up having a bit more fuel than that, so that way we can just have a little bit of leeway, because I'm not perfect. Hell, I'm actually very bad at this game compared to a lot of people. Just trying to figure out what engine to use. We end up going with that one because it's quite efficient and has a very high thrust to weight ratio. I think we go with the same engine on here as well for this stage. Yeah, we do, I think. Yeah. Okay, I'm changing my mind a lot. I don't, actually. I think that's the final stage, though. And so now we're going to go with our whatchamacallit, dry rocket boosters, which will help us get us nice and high into the atmosphere for that liquid engine to ignite and get us into orbit. It's trying to see me trying to figure out what bit to use for the nose cones. They end up looking alright, not great, but you know, we're not really looking for looks at this point. It's pure functionality. Start adding some fins, because we're going to need to stay upright. I probably need to get the better aerodynamics, but it's alright. What we've got is good enough. And in a second now, we are going to go for our first launch. So for this launch, we are going to go very, very quick. I believe this is 10 times the speed, and that's simply because this isn't the actual successful mission, this is the failure. Things go wrong in this mission. You can see us here just extending out our orbit. We got into orbit incredibly quickly. I've had barely any time to commentate on that. Us time warping to the appropriate transfer window with Eve, planning out our maneuver node. But yeah, I decided to leave this in here just to extend the runtime a little bit, even though it did end up going for too long, but I couldn't be bothered editing out the entire video, so it's alright. We get some nice moments at least, so I think it's all worth it. We extend out our orbit. Oh, actually no, never mind. We load a quick save, and then we extend out our orbit, and we plan our second maneuver, which will get us our actual encounter with Eve and get us nice and close to Gilly. So far, everything's going well. We look like we will hopefully have enough fuel to get us there and back, since a landing on Gilly takes barely any delta V. It's mainly the transfer which takes the most, and even then it's only like 40 to 50 meters per second. I think it's 42 this transfer is, which really in the grand scheme of how much we had isn't that much at all. It does end up looking pretty good though. Everything looks pretty promising, but it's only when I finally land that I do realize something. Now, one problem with landing on Gilly is that it takes an incredibly long time. It's so long and boring because you can't time warp, so I end up propelling myself down to the surface. And you can see us here coming in for our first landing on another planet. We end up tipping over a little bit actually, which I thought was kind of funny, but we do manage to save it because of how slowly we're going at this point. Do all of our science, we do a little spacewalk to reset all of our stuff, do a little IVA looking, and it's at this point that we realise we didn't have enough Delta V. So we have to make some modifications to our rocket. What we're going to do is we're going to add in another booster, which I think that's pretty much all we do, really. Yeah, I think all we do is add another booster, if I remember right. Oh, and we do a little bit of painting. Yeah, as you can see, we did get Lazy Painter working at this point. Which is very nice. And another mod that we have that you will see in a moment is BlackRax's True Volumetric Clouds, which I love that mod. It's a great mod, absolutely stunning, and adds just that one thing that I felt was really truly missing from the game, which was those beautiful clouds. And we finally have them, which BlackRax's Go join his Patreon. It's great, you get access to the mod. You don't really have to, you can only join it once. You have to only join it once, but if you want updates, you will have to join it again. I think in the future, once it's fully released, it might be getting released for free, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Yeah, this was my first time using Lazy Painter, so I wasn't entirely sure how it worked, so I'm not going very quickly with this, but I also figured out how to change the Kerbin's suits, which I never knew how to do, so I do that with, I think it's Kerbin is our scientist, pretty sure that's his name. Yeah. Here we have launch 3, the final launch of this video. Just look how good those clouds look. Oh, you'll get a better look at them later on when we re-enter Kerbin, but they just look so good. And you see us here doing our orbit maneuver, which will obviously, as the name suggests, get us into orbit. And I think orbit around Kerbin, I think, yeah, 3,400 meters per second of Delta V, which is quite a lot, but it's manageable, and it's not too much to the point where we're not going to have any to get to Gilly. Most of our fuel here is actually used getting into Kerbin orbit, because everything moves a lot easier when you don't have that gravity holding you back. Well, you still have the gravity holding you back, but you don't have that atmosphere, which Kerbin's atmosphere is quite thick, but it is 10 times as small as Earth is, so everything in real life is about 10 times harder than this is, and maybe one day I'll get a mod that'll make everything but make everything the true size that it is. And I'll do that. I do want to do a modded playthrough one day, but not at the moment. I should probably focus on what we're doing. Hey, well, we're doing our maneuver over to Eve, just getting our encounter all ready. As you can see here, it gets pretty close to Eve. We don't actually want it that close, we want it kind of far, so that way we're in line with Gilly's orbit and can get a nice, easy encounter. This burn I thought was just very pretty, which is why I kept that in. I do like keeping the start of burns in up to a point. I think it just adds a nice visual element and a bit of a break from the super fast-paced stuff. I think I ended up messing up our encounter a bit, so we have to re-get that here, but that's okay. We do managed to do that. I don't remember if it was for less or slightly more delta V. It would probably have been slightly more, but that is okay. You can see us here now warping over to our maneuver, which will get us our Gilly encounter. I nearly said Kerbin there, for 400 meters per second worth of delta V. Now we're doing this very slowly. Well, we're not doing this very slowly, but we're waiting for the time warp, which was very slow and took a while. And here we got a little bit skewed, so we just go ahead and we fix that. We're only putting our throttle up a tiny bit, and that works. We make a little quick save just in case everything goes horribly wrong. Thankfully, I don't think it does. No, it doesn't. That's right. It does not go horribly wrong. And here we're just trying to get our encounter. But we decide to worry about that later. We do some science outside of Eve, which is much needed, and we'll just boost the science that we get from Gilly. Well, not boost, but it'll add on to the science we get from Gilly. And time warping over to the encounter, and we have now entered Eve's influence. We're going to time warp pretty close to the periapsis, not exact, because we want to get that a bit lower, just so that we can influence our apoapsis easier. And now, once we are at this stage, we're going to actually use our mod to get our encounter with Gilly. After we do a quick spacewalk, just to reset the Science Junior. With Kerbin. Now, what do we do here? Yep, we're just checking to make sure that our science is transferred to one of the containers. Yes. Very nice. We end up keeping all of our experiments rather than transmitting them. I don't think we could transmit them at this point, but we do keep them all. We do a crew report. We do another spacewalk to reset it once again. By the way, if my voice sounds a bit strange, it's because I'm sick, not feeling the best. So that's a bit of a shame, but it's all good. Eve looks very pretty. Whoa. Whoopsies. Okay, so you can see us here with our maneuver node to Gilly, just approaching it. I think it's 30 meters per second of fuel, so a very quick burn. Well, for the first one, the next one's more like 90, which will get us on the actual path to Gilly. But that is okay. And guess what I'm doing at the moment?
Video?
Yep, recording.
Pardon?
I'm recording.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this one.
Yes, it should be a good one.
I need another mention.
You will get another mention, don't worry, babe.
Yay!
So you can see us here time warping over to our next maneuver, which will get us our encounter with Gilly, the tiny little asteroid it is. It's very hard to get this encounter because it has almost no sphere of influence. You can see it there, it's very, very tiny, and any adjusting of the maneuver node sends our periapsis in very wild directions, but we do manage to some very, very fine tuning. We might manage to get it pretty equatorial and centered, which is just very, very useful for when we have to leave and do our burn to leave. It'll just get us equatorial around Gilly easier. Not Gilly, equatorial around Eve easier. which will be very nice. You can see us doing our burn here. We have to be very precise with this burn. Yeah.
The dirt? Oh my gosh, that looks like chocolate.
Yummy.
I'm not even kidding. Wait, that looks exactly like chocolate.
My favorite food is dirt.
Do you think it tastes like chocolate?
I reckon it would taste like chocolate, babe. No doubt in my mind.
No.
Did not taste like chocolate.
Didn't taste like chocolate.
Did you actually eat it? I swear to God, babe.
I licked it.
Oh my God. While my girlfriend was eating dirt aerated pellets, we started our circularization burn. Now we did forget to put our thrusters back all the way to full for quite a while, but we did remember eventually, so it was all good. But the thing about Gilly is that you can't really orbit it. It's either you're going away from the planet or you're falling directly into it. The other thing is that because of how small it is, you fall incredibly slowly. I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but it's so incredibly slow. To the point where we, again, boosted towards the planet. Landing on Gilly is also very difficult, also because of how slowly you fall and how slowly it happens. But you can see us here, we are going very slowly and are about to touch down there. And the other thing is that you do quite a bit of bouncing on Gilly. But we managed to land on, and this is our first interplanetary trip on the channel, and the first one that I've ever done that is fully successful. We do our little EVA spacewalk with the what is the EVA pack? I forget what it's called. I think it's the EVA pack, and that's just to collect our science from the storage and put it in our little research thingamabob. After putting it in our research thingamabob, we sit here for a while, we research it, which will just get us that extra science that is very, very nice and handy. Now, we weren't actually able to transmit this science, and that's because of what ends up happening a little bit later on, which ends up being a little bit chaotic. But it does end up being perfectly fine and right. And here you can see us doing our little EVA, just making sure that there's no more stored science, collecting all of it and going again back in there. Now Gilly's gravity again being incredibly low, you can just fly with the EVA pack. In fact, you can actually get into orbit around Gilly with just the EVA pack really easily too, like incredibly easily. Like, it's honestly barely even inconvenience to get into orbit around Gilly with the EVA pack. In fact, the hardest thing is probably staying in orbit and not leaving, because of how small it is. And well, I've called Gilly small quite a few times. I'd say it's pretty big, to be honest. It's pretty decent size, and we planted our flag as I was making that terrible joke. I don't remember what we called the flag. I don't remember what we called it, but we called it something. I think it was something along the lines of, "Oh my God, we did it! We landed! Yes!" Oh, that's a bit of a flashy. It's a lot of flashing. Epilepsy warning, bit late, but well, better late than never. We make a quick save just to make sure that we, are safe and we save before we take off from Gilly, which I believe should happen relatively shortly. Not quite yet, but in a moment. And now, Now I do have this in real time just so you can see how quickly and easily you leave Gilly. Just a quick hint, it's very quick. It's like most of it isn't even spent leaving Gilly. Most of that was spent orienting ourselves upwards away from Gilly. After completing our burn to leave Gilly, it takes ages to get to a point where you can time warp away from it. I think it's 8,000 meters and moving at 30-60 meters per second. It takes quite a little while to do that. It's very annoying. I find it very annoying. Lots of people find it very annoying. I'm probably going to have to get the better time warp mod to avoid issues like this in the future. I don't know why I don't have that installed currently, but I don't, and I should definitely install it. I quite like that mod. I've used it in the past, not on this channel, but just in my free time. When I feel like it. You can see us here warping to our transfer window with Kerbin and Eve. If you don't know what a transfer window is, it's pretty much the point where where you can just get a very easy encounter with whatever you want to get an encounter with. And in this case, that would be Kerbin. And as you can see, us here trying to figure out how to get that encounter. Again, I'm not very good at this game. I'm not incredible at using the maneuver nodes, but eventually I figure it out. You know, I get there. And this burn will take almost all of our Delta V. Pretty much all of it. I think it's 600 meters per second out of the 800 that we have left. Because this isn't the most efficient burn by any means. We could definitely do a more efficient burn if we really wanted to, but again, not good at this game. So we warp over to our maneuver and we start our burn over there to Kerbin. So, after doing that, we then plan a maneuver just in between the planets. Yeah, that makes sense. Just to get our actual encounter and get our periapsis low enough to the point where it's in the atmosphere, but it's not too far in the atmosphere, so we won't burn up, explode, and die. See us here making a quick save. There were multiple attempts at this mission, specifically this bit here, where after this burn, I think we make another quick save. I'm not too sure, but I think we do. But after this burn, there's a few more attempts made, which I do not include in the video because it would run for way too long. But yeah, they did exist. There were many attempts at this specific bit of the mission, specifically not burning up in re-entry and getting into orbit in re-entry. So the way that I found around it, actually, you know what, you'll see it. I'm not gonna spoil it yet. I feel it was super smart and not that. Okay, it's a little bit scummy, but it's okay. It's acceptable levels after having like 40 attempts. So to start with, we get just barely into orbit with multiple passes. I think it takes 3 passes for us to actually land. That's with this entire craft. So what we do is we put this in 4 times fizz warp, because if we didn't do this, it would just burn up. It would just burn up and explode. Oh, the Firefly mod just looks absolutely gorgeous. I love re-entries, always have. They are one of my favourite parts in this entire game, and they just look that much better now. well, not even that, they look so much better now. And so that's our first pass done. Now here is, I think technically this is our longest pass, the second one. And you can just really see just that beautiful, beautiful, just, what even, I forget what it's called. But it's plasma formed from the air condensing. I've talked about it in a previous video, but you can just see all the particles coming off it as well, and it just looks so good. Now, I was really surprised that absolutely nothing burned up here, not even the legs burned up, which ended up actually being kind of crucial, the legs not burning up, and you'll see that soon. But the person that made this mod, I forget who made it, but they did an amazing job on it. So I am kind of raving about it like this is a showcase or something, but it's not. I just really love KSP, and I really love KSP mods that just really bring the game to life and just make it current era, you know? Because this is one of my all-time favorite games. Easily in my top 10, probably top 5, probably top 3 actually. It probably goes Terraria, this, and then maybe Ark Survival or Ark Survival Ascended. Because I can run Ark Survival Ascended now. I don't think I've talked about this, but I got a PC upgrade. I think I might have talked about this, but yeah, I got a PC upgrade, so that's why I can run all of these mods very nicely at 60 frames per second most of the time. Sometimes it drops below, but that's just because we have heaps of mods. And you can see our shoots deploy here, which just, at this point, I was ecstatic. I was so happy that I'd completed my first interplanetary mission successfully. I think, oh, those Black Rax clouds, just absolutely beautiful. Our shoots fully deploy here, and we fizz warp down to the ground. And you can see here, this is just real time, us landing. I have the legs extended just in case. And we touch down right about here. Let's go, bro! Yes! Oh my god. Oh. Yes. After doing that mission, we ended up with 1060 science. That is heaps more than we have had in this game, and I was very excited. So we immediately went and we got the command modules, and then we got the nuclear engines, as well as very heavy rocketry. Well, this is the end of the video and our mission to Gilly. It was a great success. We got tons of science. There was ways we could have gotten more science, but that's okay. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you again in the future. Goodbye.